Shelby Lynne is our guest on Morning Becomes Eclectic here at 89.9 KCRW, and playing us a set of music to get things going. Some tracks from the new album, which is called Identity Crisis. It's in stores tomorrow. I know we got another set of music coming up, Shelby, but let's catch up just a little bit in between songs.
I'd love to.
Yeah, you know, I saw you a couple of weeks ago over in Boulder, which we did a special performance for Sounds Eclectic, which some of our listeners might have heard on Sunday nights, but probably most of them haven't heard that interview. So I'm going to do pretty much the same conversation we had last time, which is really just to catch up with what's been going on in between the last album, which was Love Shelby, and obviously arriving at this point with the new record. I know it's been an eventful couple of years for you. I Am Shelby, though, was the album that brought you to a lot of people's attention. People thought it was your first album, but it was actually your sixth album, I
Yes,
think?
that was number 6. I know it.
And that one actually kicked off quite a lot of activity for you over a couple of years period of time, didn't it? I mean, you won a Grammy, and all of a sudden things kind of got a little nutty there for you.
Well, yeah, nutty's best for me. I don't really know how to act any other way. But it seems to just get nuttier, Nick, and that is a good thing. I fit into that nutty thing pretty well.
You went pretty much, though, straight from that album and the acclaim that came with it into making Love Shelby, which was the album that you made with Glenn Ballard. And things seemed to kind of shift for you a little bit, at least musically, didn't they? It was a little more slick, the album.
A little slick, a little pop. I love that record, but it's definitely different than the I Am, and it's totally different from this one. But, you know, I think that's just because I was there then, and that's what I was doing at the time. And I just try to live in the moment. And music usually takes you where it wants you to go, you know.
You know, you did a lot of touring around that time as well, and but there came a time when you just sort of seemed that you had to just stop. You weren't having too much fun with your record label either. What happened around that time?
Well, I just pretty much decided I didn't want to be in the music business for a minute, and got off that label, and just wanted to start over. You know, I've been making records since I was 18. I had my first record deal when I was 18. So at that point, not having a deal, it was a first time for me thing. So it was. I really don't think that this album could have been made with a label involved. I don't know, number one, if anyone would have let me, and number two, I think my head was in a place where it's never been. You know, it was one of those I really don't have anything to lose places. So I made a record that I wanted to make kind of on my own and by myself, and it feels real good.
Now, I know before you started work on the record, it became Identity Crisis. You went home to Alabama for a little while as well, didn't you, just to check in?
Yes, I did. I had every intention of taking a whole year away from making music, you know, not stopping music because I can't do that, but just not being in the biz for a minute, you know. And went back to Alabama. I have a little place there, and fished a little bit, and then all of a sudden the song said, well, sorry, but no year off for you. They kind of started coming. So went back to California and put a little studio that I could manage myself in the house, and that's kind of how these songs were born.
Now, I know you're out in the desert, and as you said, you put a little studio together at home to start writing and demoing songs.
Yeah.
Were you doing it in the middle of the night? Were you doing it during the day? If I remember correctly, you were telling me there were times when you'd just be up all night writing.
Oh, yeah. I did stay up a lot, and I think it was just because I didn't want to stop. I was really having a good time, feeling good about the songs, and learning how to operate this really wild equipment. And it was just me and a bunch of machines sitting around and my dogs. So, yeah, I just really wanted to get away from the whole scene, you know, and just be in private. And I enjoyed it. I got to spend a lot of time with myself. I know me better than I ever wanted to.
Now, you said at the beginning of our conversation that, you know, you're in the moment, you like to be in the moment. Tell us about the songs that are on this record and the moments that you were writing these songs.
There's a lot of moments. I think that's why I call it Identity Crisis, because there's. I told you I learned a lot about it myself, and I learned about all of me, the all of me's in myself. So the songs would come at different times of the day, and I was a little nutty about it. I always had my tape recorder around, and I drank a lot of coffee, and just kind of wired on the creating vibe. And I feel really fortunate to have it. I mean, you wake up some days and you go, okay, I really wish I could be creative, and nothing. You go, oh, nothing, thanks a lot. And then some days you get a little song angel will come down and say, okay, I'll give you a little bone. So that's kind of how it happened. All the songs are different. I don't really know where they come from any time, but I guess it would be the musical influences that I have, or maybe something that I'm listening to at the time might remind me of something, or pick up the guitar and I make a mistake and happen to make a decent chord. A lot of them happen like that.
Tell us about, as you say, there's a lot of different songs and different times that they arrived for you as you were writing them. Tell us about the song, just one little story, if we can, before we go back to music, about the song that came after a conversation with Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I was up way in the morning one time, and it was, I guess, about October, and I knew Willie was on tour in California, so I knew he would be in the same time zone. So I picked up the phone, and I called him on his cell, which is on his tour bus, and he picked up and answered. It was way in the morning, and we talked for, I know, an hour and a half, and just caught up. And Willie and I have known each other for several years, and we caught up and talked about family and friends, and I asked him about him losing his friend Waylon Jennings and how that had to be hard, and he said, well, yeah, it was hard, but Waylon was mad at me when he died, and I went, oh, no, and he said, well, it's okay, we hopefully can make amends one day. And then the sun started coming up where I was, and I said, Willie, I wish you were here. I would love to watch the sun come up with you over this teepee that I have, because I knew he would be excited I had a teepee, I have a teepee in my backyard. And he said, yeah, it could just be you and me, one with the sun. And I hung up and wrote it and called him a couple of days later, and I said, I wrote that thing you said. And then I went on to write him a letter and tell him how he not only influenced the song, but a great deal of my life, and how just magic it is to know him,
That sounds very inspiring, to be influenced by somebody, who's written such great songs as he has, and then to be able to have a conversation with him about it as well.
Oh, it's unbelievable to even, I mean, if anybody's ever been around Willie, he just puts out this little magical elf vibe, He's got a twinkle in his eye, and it's really for real. So his vibe is the best.
He was here about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, and it was a moment to savor having him on the airwaves here.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go back to the album. Obviously, you talked about writing the songs, and then you went into the studio to record them. And I know you wanted to keep the sessions simple.
Yes, definitely. I always knew that I could make a record this way, which is basically go in with my guitar and my vocal and a bass player, and lay down the vocal live and everything live, and then just put a record around it, just kind of add some guitars and some percussion and some vocals and things, and just let that be it, I miss records where it's just the song and the performance. There's a lot to be said for under-production, in my opinion. So it was just pretty simple, Nick. I mean, the thing I always kept close in my head was to know when to stop, because studios are a little crippling. They'll let you do anything you want to, and that was my main goal, is to just know when to stop.
Now, you said as well that when you were writing this record, you didn't have a record deal, which I'm sure took a lot of pressure off you as you were sort of thinking about making music for yourself rather than for, we got to have the single and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. How did you find a home at Capitol Records?
Well, luck. And, because I finished the record totally before I ever played it for anyone. I wanted it to be finished because I didn't want that whole record company, well, this is great, but it sounds like demos and we could recut it and have some hits kind of thing. And I had already said in my mind that if that was going to be the reaction I got, that I could just easily go back to Alabama and grow tomatoes for a living and put me up a little market on the side of the road or something, because I really wanted to stand behind my vision, which was to just do something simple. And luckily, Capitol heard it, and Andy Slater just said, well, let's do it. He dug it, and here I am. So.
Well, congratulations. It's a beautiful record.
Thank you, Nick.
It's in stores tomorrow. We're going to give away some tickets at the end of our program for a show that I know you're going to be doing next month. But right now, I'm going to throw it back to you and the band, and then we'll come back and wrap things up here a little bit later. It's Shelby Lynne, and she's live on When It Becomes Eclectic.